Hey everybody, it's Jay Privman along with Marty McGee. We've got two races to preview this week for the Derby Watch Top 20. But Marty, before we do that, let's take a look at our current Top 20 grid. We've got a couple of long shots that have come onto the list and a significant move on 1,000 words all the way down to 12 to 1. And 10 of the 20 horses on our list are going to be in action this week.
Yeah, we got a lot going on here, Jay. We still have Tiz the Law on top as the 2-to-1 favorite. A little bit of a shakeup among the 2 and 3 horses, with Art Collector now displacing Honor AP, with Honor AP having been defeated at Del Mar. And so we have 5-to-1 on Art Collector, 6-to-1 on Honor AP. 3 of the Bob Baffert horses after that: Authentic at 8-to-1, Uncle Chuck at 10-to-1, and 1,000 Words all the way up to 12-to-1 off that upset in the Shared Belief. We have a couple of horses out. Cezanne and Mystic Guide are out, and Chivalry and South Bend both in. They both run on the Travers, and we have them at 50-to-1.
Well, speaking of the Travers, that's going to be the final Kentucky Derby prep for Tiz the Law. He is the current favorite on your line right now at 2-to-1. Won the Belmont Stakes most recently. It's just so bizarre to be talking about the Belmont Stakes as a race preceding the Kentucky Derby as well as the Travers, but that's part of this crazy 2020 that we're in. Marty, let's take a look at this horse's performance in the Belmont Stakes. In fact, Max Player finishes 3rd in the Belmont. He's also going to be in the Travers on Saturday at Saratoga. What did you think of Tiz the Law? What are your expectations for Saturday?
Well, I mean, ever since I saw him in the flesh at Churchill Downs in the Kentucky Jockey Club, in which he was a puzzling 3rd, he has done nothing wrong, Jay. He's swept through his 3 preps. Well, if you call the Belmont a prep, his 3 preps this year with great ease. He's got to be, I would think, less than even money in the Travers on Saturday, in which 7 of the 8 horses are in our top 20. So clearly a key race going forward toward the Derby. But there's you can't really knock him, and as you've mentioned a number of times in our grid for the Derby Watch, just judging by his works via video, he's really got to be the horse to beat, not only in the Travers but in the Kentucky Derby too right now.
Absolutely. He's certainly looks like he's holding his form. It's a hard thing to do for as long as he's had to do it, but just based on his race performances and what we've seen of his workouts, it certainly looks like he's continuing to excel. Just quickly, Marty, before we move on to another few contenders out of this race, what did you think of Max Player's race in the Belmont? What do you think of his chances on Saturday?
Well, it was terrific. I think he would be one of the major players if Uncle Chuck isn't what we think he might be. He's only had the 1 race since the Withers, and it was terrific in the Belmont. So so far so good for Linda Rice and the way she's trained him. And yeah, he's a legit like 8-to-1 shot in the Travers, and then we'll see how he does.
Well, you did reference Uncle Chuck. He is shipping in from California. He will be the second choice in the race behind Tiz the Law. His most recent performance was a victory in the Los Alamitos Derby. Marty, I've seen this horse. He's only run a couple of times out here, first at Santa Anita and then at Los Alamitos. But he's been asked to come a long way in a short amount of time. This is obviously a huge step up, shipping cross country, going 1.25 miles, and facing the acknowledged leader of the division. All that said, when you watch this horse in the morning, you watch the way he trains, he is an exceptional horse. He's giving away a lot in terms of experience, in terms of the home court advantage. But I think in terms of raw ability, he rates right up there. What's your impression of Uncle Chuck?
Well, he'll get a chance to prove all that, Jay. I mean, it looks like he will be able to sit a nice trip in the Travers behind the acknowledged frontrunner Chivalry, who really has no choice but to go to the lead. And then we'll see how good he is. If he gets into a nice smooth stride and goes on from there, he'll be a major factor in the Derby. He is the X horse right now, both in the Travers and beyond that toward the Kentucky Derby.
And then a couple of horses that are coming out of the prep for the Travers this year, that being the Peter Pan, a race usually run at Belmont Park. It was the opening day feature for the summer season at Saratoga. And Marty, Country Grammar and CARACARO coming out of that race, they were the 1-2 finishers. It was an exciting race to watch. Both these horses kind of late developing sorts. I thought Country Grammar showed a lot of tenacity to hold on and win. But I thought the second horse ran huge off of a 6-month layoff. My concern with him would be, is he going to regress off such a huge performance coming back in this race? I think they both need to improve to beat the likes of Tiz the Law and Uncle Chuck. Do you think they're capable of that kind of improvement?
I guess they are. You know, there was so much buzz about CARACARO down in Florida this winter, and then he got hurt, and then he was forgotten. And then, you know, with the Derby having been postponed, here he is right back with us. Same kind of with Country Grammar, who didn't run all that well in the Holy Bull and was kind of a forgotten Derby horse. And now here he is. Country Grammar could trip out the way he did in the Peter Pan with the 2-hole in Irad in the Travers. CARACARO, he looks like he, like Uncle Chuck, will be able to stalk the pace in a favorable position behind Chivalry, and we'll see what both of them can do from there.
So those are some of the top contenders in the Travers Stakes on Saturday at Saratoga. The very next day will be the Ellis Park Derby. Marty, this will be the final Derby prep for Tax Collector, most recently the winner of the Bluegrass. After the Bluegrass, they weren't sure at the time if they were going to go in another race before the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, that decision has been made, and they're going to do it. You've been following this horse. You saw the Bluegrass. You saw his allowance win at Churchill Downs. What are your expectations for the Ellis Park Derby?
I mean, they're going to draw this race on Wednesday. They're expecting 12 horses. I guess everybody's trying to get in their last pitch to make the Derby field. You would probably have to win if you have no points. It's a 50-20-10-5 designation for this Ellis Park Derby. Art Collector, I would think, Jay, he's got to be even money or less in this field. He was just so dominant in the Bluegrass. The one work that I've seen snippets of, he's just got such a good way of going. And knock on wood for him, I think if he wins this race, he will be a deserved second choice in the Kentucky Derby. We got a number of horses behind him. Dean Martini, Shared Sense, they're both in our top 20. And we can talk about them here in a second.
Well, just to wrap up our little discussion there of the Bluegrass Stakes, just want to acknowledge that Chivalry was in that race, and he finished well down the track in that race, Marty, finishing 11th. As we mentioned earlier, he's going to be in the Travers Stakes. I just think let's just quickly talk about him, since he's coming out of that same race as Tax Collector. I just don't envision him being a 1.25 mile type horse. Do you?
No, I mean, but I'm glad he's in the Travers, because it's going to legitimize the pace, you would think. And so why they're pushing forward with him at these longer distances, I don't know. But he was second, a good second. They're harkening back to that behind Tiz the Law in the Florida Derby. So I guess there's hope for him. But you would think that he's just there more or less to set the table for others.
One of the other horses that's going to be running the Ellis Park Derby is, as you mentioned, Dean Martini, coming off a win in the Ohio Derby. In fact, he won that race at the expense of South Bend, who's going to be in the Travers. So let's talk about these two horses, Dean Martini in the context of the Ellis Park Derby, and South Bend in the context of the Travers. Well,
Dean Martini, I don't sense a lot of confidence from Tom Amoss. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just sandbagging us or whatever, but he's not eager, it doesn't seem, to have him supplemented for what would be a total cost of almost $100,000 to the Kentucky Derby. He says he has to run really big in this race. I don't know if that means he's going to win. I don't think he will, because I think Art Collector will win this race. But he jumped up, and he was a $50,000 claim a couple starts back, ran huge in the Ohio Derby. I don't know if he'll get anything on Sunday, honestly.
And as we mentioned, South Bend coming out of that race, he's been privately purchased since then, and he's taking on the big boys in the Travers on Saturday. Obviously, a pretty significant step up in class for him after coming out of a second-place finish behind Dean Martini in the Ohio Derby. Marty, let's move on to the last horse to talk about who's running in the Ellis Park Derby that's on our Derby Watch Top 20. That's Shared Sense, who won the Indiana Derby about a month ago. Kind of a late developing horse. I think he's kind of a grinding type. The one thing I like about him is that I don't think the distance is going to get in his way in any way, shape, or form. I just don't know if he's quite of the quality of the top of this division right now. What do you think about him?
Yeah, well, Brad, this is the third horse Brad Cox has had on the 2020 Derby Trail. He had Wells Bayou, who, of course, won the Louisiana Derby. He had Monomoy, the Monomoy girl. What help me with
Mr.
him?
Monomoy.
Mr. Monomoy. And they've both gone by the wayside. He did rally pretty strongly to win the Indiana Derby. The horse who was second major fed, they were talking about running him in the Ellis Derby. They're passing, going to go straight to the Kentucky Derby. I'm with you. I think that he has a lot to do to catch up to the big boys in the 3-year-old division.
So lots of action this weekend with the Travers Stakes and the Ellis Park Derby. 10 of the 20 horses on our Derby Watch Top 20 will be in action. For details on a couple of these horses that are trying to make the Derby who wouldn't have had it been run on May the 2nd, you can check out my Derby Watch feature this week focusing on Uncle Chuck and on on Art Collector. I always want to call him Tax Collector because I guess it's because I live in the state of California and Tax Collector comes often out here. Marty and I also have a review of last week's Shared Belief Stakes up here at DRF.com. And of course, we'll be back next week to recap these 2 races that we just previewed for you guys. And we'll also have some horse previews for the final point scoring race towards the Kentucky Derby, that being the Pegasus at Monmouth. Thanks for watching. For Marty McGee, I'm Jay Privman. Take care, everybody.